But this webinar, I will say, surprisingly for me, semi-surprisingly, because I've seen Kevin a few times before. I know that he's a good speaker. I know he does a lot of different events with loads of different individuals. Property is not necessarily the main thing, but it is a part of the audience that he tends to attract. But he's actually one of our most popular webinars that we've had in a long time. And I say it's semi-surprising because, of course, this is something a little out of the ordinary for the NL and PG lock-in. Usually we're talking to different partners about products that we would recommend, about different developments that they've got. And Wealth Builders is something that is a little bit outside of that. But I posted something on the Facebook group today because I find what Kevin talks about very, very interesting. It's about SSAS pensions. Now, some of you may know a little bit about them. Some of you may know a lot. We're certainly all bound to find out a lot more today, as Kevin will be breaking down some of the benefits and some of the strategies that you can actually use your own pension to start to turbocharge your property investment business or other businesses as well. We talk, I guess, specifically about property tonight because that's the
Yeah,
types of
pretty
people that
much.
we're in.
Yeah.
A lot of people in property will start off because their pension is no good, because they think, right, this pension is growing at 0% per year, or they might not even have one. And they think, right, we're going to need to buy one or two or three houses. The value of that over time, the capital gains, that's my pension. The amount of times I've had this conversation with property investors up and down the country, it might change after they start to get a bit of a taste for it, as they start to get that property bug. But certainly that's one of the main reasons I hear that people get into property in the first place. But tonight we're talking about the opposite. We're talking about we've got those properties, or we're starting to get those properties, and now we're going to start to use that pension that we've already got in the background and supercharge that even further. So I'm not going to try and explain it because I've got a tenuous understanding of it. I'm here to learn tonight as well. Kevin, you're the man to take it away. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, if you give me permission to share, sir, I'll be
Absolutely.
more
Let's
than
let's
happy
go
to
with
lead
it.
the dialogue. And as you said, more than happy that anybody who would want to ask a question can flag that. So just let me know that you can see the screen that says how to
We're
find
ready
new
to go. Thank
sources
you.
of money for your property. That's great. So thank you very much, Anthony. And just want to say good evening and welcome to you. Glad the weather's eased off a little bit, and I'm sure you are too. But thanks for investing a little bit of your time, which is always great that you're investing in yourself. So I want to make the time as valuable as possible. And most people, in the world of property run out of money before they run out of ambition. And I'm going to show you how you can get access to all the money you could care about, how you could be your own underwriter for your own money. You don't need to go to anybody else to underwrite you and worry about interest rates. How you can get access to tax-free and interest-free money. How do you do that, Kevin? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. So lots of reasons why we need to be in control of our funding, because so many weird and wonderful people out there are affecting, decisions that we really don't have control over. And this one in particular is doing my head in right now, doing my complete nuts. We got a clown in the government in America writing executive orders, creating tariffs everywhere, sending us almost on the precipice of war globally, politically, economically. It's a shambles. So it's better that we're in control, and I'm here to guide you. I'm much safer than Mr. Trump. Don't wear the hat with my suit. Not going to happen. So I'm an expert in this field, and I would encourage anyone who's on this call to consider themselves an expert, to be outstanding in one field or another, because it gives you permission to not just be an expert, but to share your expertise. And I'm going to show you some of mine, so you can attract not just the use of your own money, but other people's money too. People not in this room who didn't invest in themselves. And the whole world of wealth is a fascinating subject for me. I believe wealth is created on the back of multiple streams of recurring income, and I've spent my lifetime doing that. And I've invested in hundreds of joint ventures with other property people, so I can speak confidently about what you need to do to be attractive to private investors. And I've written 3 books that are useful, which you can have for free, by the way. You don't need to buy them. You don't need to go to Amazon. When we get to the end, if you kind of like something of what I've said and you resonate with me in any way, you can have them. Okay. So enough of that. Let's get into the meat of the matter. In the world of wealth, the most overlooked and undervalued source of money and source of wealth, and Anthony framed it very well. People get into property because their pensions are terrible. Well, they're not always terrible, but they're almost always poor value. And we want to do something about that. But think also as you listen this evening, not just about how the message might be relevant to you personally. And even if you don't have a pension and SSAS doesn't interest you, think about other people who might drop a penny in their mind. So there's a big ROI for me in property. Of course, we all have different financial ROIs, but the one I want to share with you myself is you're only one relationship, that's the R, one opportunity, that's the O, and one idea, that's the I, away from a complete transformation in your wealth. This transformed my wealth, this knowledge, and this has transformed the lives of over 5,000 people that we've served in the world of property. So very valuable. So don't hesitate. You're not going to be an expert in 30 minutes, but it's taken me 30 years to learn it. But you will have enough information to decide whether you want to become curious about it or not. And curiosity is the only thing I want from you this evening. Now, when I talk to people about pensions, and I mentioned I'm also an IFA, so I understand pensions inside and out, is that almost everybody I've met, almost everyone, probably apart from me, don't like pensions at all. They're confused, they're frustrated, they're distracted, they're disconnected. They spend 5 minutes a year looking at a statement, wishing it were better and put it back in the drawer. All fabulously well organized, but really not doing a great deal. And, you know, one of the things that worries me about pensions is the average income for people in the UK who rely on pensions is 15 grand a year. That's not a lot of money to live on in retirement, particularly when the world is getting more complex and more uncertain. And the thing that worries me more than anything else is the fact that almost everybody who's got a pension, because of that level of disconnection, is not seeing the transparency of what they're paying for it. Now, the world of AI has shaken up lots of things in our life, hasn't it? We all know that. But unfortunately, it hasn't shaken up the pensions industry. And what we're getting is still old-fashioned charges when new technology is bringing cost saving to bear for everybody, apart from what we call the retail customer. So if you're in the room and you've got a pension, or you know somebody who's got one, then they're probably paying, this is an average, about 2% in charges. Now, it doesn't sound a lot, but if the average return on the stock market is, say, 6%, or you have a good one, 8%, then you're paying between 25 and 30% of your money to a third party. That doesn't sound like a good joint venture to me, particularly they get paid before you get paid. This is the industry of financial services. They don't put any money in, you take all the risk, and there's no accountability if it goes wrong. So in other words, if the market goes down like it has done recently, it's you who's taking all that risk and you're paying the penalty. I don't like that as a principle. So I try and encourage people to shift their thinking and take control and ownership of their pension, because you can do that legally in the UK. And the concept of SSAS, which, yes, it's a bit awkward. The language, I think Laura said at the beginning, sounds like it's stuttering. But in reality, the small self-administered scheme, or SSAS for short, has got nothing to do with stuttering, nothing to do with the armed forces, nothing to do with software as a service, but everything to do with control. Coined in 1973, okay, this is not new stuff. This is old stuff for business owners and directors only. So if you're not a director of a limited company, it's not for you. But most people in property can either create a limited company relatively quickly, or so many of them have done so since government intervention in 2017 with Section 24, not allowing you mortgage tax relief and all that jazz. Well, you know that, but you may not know that with a limited company, you can say to your current pension company, hey, I want to take control over what I invest in. So you don't have to invest in the stock market exclusively. You can take control, invest in what you want to invest in. And I'm sure we'll have questions about that. So small is for a small company, right? So we're all small companies. None of us are multinationals on the call. Scheme is another word for pension. And self-administered, it means self-directed. It means you choose direction. You choose the investments. So you've got permission, if you've got a limited company, to unlock the vault of pensions in your life and other people's pensions too, and turn it into money that reflects your business, not the financial services business. So you've got control, which means for many people, they don't want a rainy day fund. They want money now. They don't want that feeling of, I'm parking my money for when I'm in my 60s. I want my money today. And you can do that. So you can use a SSAS pension, as I'll explain in a minute, how to create an income in your life right here, right now, not when you're in your 50s or your 60s. So there's no need to wait. And I'm going to share with you 3 strategies. Now, I know there are 7 strategies. I'm only going to share with you 3 to whet your appetite, to build that curiosity for you to go, ooh, is there anything about this that might be interesting to me? Or is there anything about this that might be interesting to somebody else I know? Whether it's a family member, a business partner, a parent if you're young like Laura. Lots and lots of things that you can do just to go, let me think about this. So let me give you 3 strategies. Conveniently, I'm going to call them buy, bridge, and borrow. And within each one, I'm going to give you a little case study. And then you go, all right, I didn't know you could do that. And hopefully you might ask a question that sheds some light on what you can do. So strategy number 1, buy. Now, what I mean by buy is you take the money that's in a pension fund and you buy assets with it that are assets you want to buy. Now, let's talk about property. So spot this thing. This is my client called Mark. He had a pension, wished it were better every time he opened the statement, as I said earlier on. 25 years of corporate life, had a decent pension pot, but wasn't happy with it. What he got to do, because SSAS is a multi-member scheme. Small is up to 11, not more than 11, not 12, not 13, anything between 1 and 11. So in this case, 4 people, 2 business partners, 2 wives, 4 people. If you put 4 people's money together that they built up over their corporate life over 20 odd years, you could have quite a big pot. Well, let's imagine a pot of 4 people putting $250,000 together, thinking they've only got $250,000. But no, 4 together is $1 million. But that $1 million means you've got more buying power, more negotiating power, more leverage, because SSAS can borrow money from a bank as well. So it gives you power to get commercial assets or multiple things because you're pooling the money together. So what did Mark do with his SSAS? Bought some commercial offices, did some commercial to residential, so converted offices into flats. You can build a barn, or you could buy a barn and convert it. You can buy a pub and convert it. We had one example last week where somebody bought a church. Can you believe it? They bought a church and converted it. I said, her name is Rachel. I said, Rachel, I've heard of being converted in a church, but I've never heard anybody convert a church to make profit. And that's exactly what she's done using her SSAS. They also bought a shopping precinct in Colchester where 5 units are the commercials and 5 of the uppers are flats. And who owns the flats? They do. But who paid for them? The pension, owned by 4 people. And they got so good at this, and this is why I'm gutted by. You saw I've written 3 books. I didn't write the book on SSAS. Mark wrote the book on SSAS. So he wrote the book, and we share that with other people. If you want that, you need to get in touch with me. But a bit boring, because SSAS is a bit boring. So I tend to do the sexy bit, and he does the boring bit. But anyway, that's what they did. So they bought those assets and built future wealth and current wealth with their pension. Now, bridge is an interesting concept in the world of finance, isn't it? We often talk about bridging, but bridge, if you think about it in its purest and most simplistic idea, is spanning a gap between two places. Yeah, here's where you want to be, here's where you are. What's the gap? It's a bridge. Right, okay. How do you build a bridge? Well, normally you build a bridge by borrowing money from an institution at a super high price with super high fees, and you want to get out of it as quickly as possible, right? You probably heard that. Well, in this example, we've got a super low-cost bridge and a very effective joint venture bridge, and this is how it worked. So this is my client, again, real people, real stories, Chris and Tracy on the left. Now, they used to work for Lloyds Bank in Yorkshire. Now, when you get bankers in Yorkshire, how cautious or risk-taking are they? Very cautious, super cautious. But they took advice from us and they consolidated two pensions. So this is husband and wife, not four, but two. But you're still seeing the picture, aren't you? Multiple people can pool resources. You get two people pool their money from our long-standing banking relationship with Final Salary, which we give advice on way back. But they didn't know property. They wanted to get into property. They were unhappy with pensions. They wanted to do property. So we connected them to our client, Christopher. You can see him, young, good-looking guy from the Northeast. He had 150 rooms, HMO specialist, run out of money before he ran out of ambition, as I said earlier on. He needed more money. Chris and Tracy needed education and a use of their money. So what do you think might have happened? Well, I'm sure you're ahead of me. Smart room. Chris and Tracy loaned money from their SSAS to Christopher. What did Christopher get? He got an investment return, an ROI, a return on the commercial, on the HMO. So he got more property. So he continued his ambition. What did Chris and Tracy get? They got a fixed rate of return on the money, which they were happy with as bankers. What do bankers do? Lend money. For what? Interest. So he said, hey, Kev, it's a game changer, this lad. I used to be a banker. Now I'm a bank. That's my Yorkshire accent, really. Not very good, but sorry. Anyway, they were happy and they got a free education as well. So the combination meant before this happened, nothing was happening. After it happened, magic took place. Relationships took place. Joint ventures took place. Imagine your face is in that picture like Christopher. If you're outstanding in what you do, if you can connect with me as an outstanding person in property, you could learn how to be in the frame. All right. What about bridge? Done that. What about borrow? This is where your head needs to get round something, okay? So shake yourself out, get a drink, have a think about this one. Very, very clever. So my client, again, Toby, on the right-hand side with his wife, winning an award for this. He was so clever. He's also a clever guy because he used to work for one of the big American banks in the city. Not anymore, built his wealth on property. But what did he do in this example so I can bring the borrow strategy to life? Well, Toby spotted this ugly-looking property on the left. Dilapidated property. A dilapidated property you can't get a mortgage on. So when he was looking at this with a view to buying it, there weren't many other people competing. So what did he do? Well, a SSAS allows a loan to be made back to the person owning the company. Okay, so he's got money in a SSAS and he lends it back to his own company. And his own company buys this property in cash. All right, then. So he's got a cash property. His pension has loaned him the money. Then he goes to the local authority that he knows about, which is in Dover, by the way. And he said to the council, I understand you have a policy of lending money to entrepreneurs who bring properties into good order. And they said, yes, Mr. Toby, we do that here in Dover. How much do you need? 40 grand, please. Okay, £40,000, interest-free. No interest, interest-free. So he's got 100,000 from his own bank, £40,000 from the bank of the council, interest-free. He pays himself 1% over base, which is the legal requirement. So what's base today? 4.25. Kept last week, wasn't it, to the same level? So if he was doing that today, he'd pay 5.25. Not 0.75 a month, but 5.25 per year. But he pays it to himself. So he borrows it from himself, pays it to himself, makes a decision about what he wants to do with the money himself. So he's underwriting himself. And then when he does the finished work and refinances it with a conventional company, he pays himself back into his SSAS, and then he can go again. And then he can go again. And then he can go again. Can you see how the incredible power to turbocharge your wealth by something maybe you just heard of a weird statement called a SSAS a few minutes ago, but we're only, what, 10, 15 minutes in, and look how much you know. You know tons. You ask an average IFA, what do you know about SSAS? They don't know anything about it. They don't want you to have one, by the way, because it will remove them from the income stream. If you ask your accountant about SSAS, they won't know about SSAS. They certainly don't know about how it works. They will have heard about it from a tax efficiency point of view, because like all pensions, you get tax relief when you make contributions. That's the same in all pensions. But it's the functionality in SSAS that caught my attention, and why, my SSAS is over 7 figures. And it's been built by understanding that it's me who makes the decision, not somebody else. So when the stock market falls, I don't care, because my money's not invested in the stock market. Anyhow, so the tax efficiency is whatever you build, whatever you buy, whatever you do in SSAS, it's completely tax-free. No income tax, no capital gains tax, no corporation tax. So if you're a business owner in the room, not a property business owner, let's say, but a business owner, and we met many business owners, and I say to them, you're either paying a recurring income or you're earning one. Who are you paying mostly? They say corporation tax. Okay. What if you could claim the corporation tax that you're paying in your company, put it in a tax-free trust fund called a SSAS, and then you can lend that back to your company, so you can actually get your tax relief and lend money to yourself to grow your company? How would you like to do that? They don't believe it's possible, but it is possible. 1973. This has been going since, not 2023. This is not new stuff, this is old stuff. So this is a small piece of legislation, tried, tested hundreds and hundreds of times, and we've helped, as I said, many thousands of people understand it. Takes time. It takes about a month to learn it. So it's not going to take, as I said, 30 minutes, take 30 days. But if you can take some time to learn it and get your head around it. Now, some people who've got a pension will know that in 2027, the government are making a change to the way pensions are taxed. And what they'll be doing is treating the value of a pension on death for inheritance tax. I'm not happy about that, right? Yes, what, says Dawn. Yeah. What, says Dawn? What? She didn't know about this, says Kev. Well, yes. And Kev isn't happy because he's got a big pension, and when he croaks, you don't want the taxman to have it. So some things you can do. I can't give you the solution on this call, but what I can tell you is a SSAS is a multi-member scheme. So if you've got, like I have, myself, my wife, and 3 grown-up children, and I've got them in the same scheme, and I hold my hand up and say, that's 5, I can start to cascade money that's in my name down the bloodline, the lifeline, the age line of my kids, which means I'm reducing my inheritance tax bill. I can't solve it, but I can reduce it. But the other thing, anyway, if I can make my pension worth a fortune more than it would have been, then I'm building wealth anyway. And when we build wealth, we've got to pay taxes. But I'm giving everybody the best chance to build their wealth, protect their wealth, and feel in control of their wealth. And that's what a SSAS can do. But it takes the right person, it takes the right people to get their head around it. And as I said, don't worry about it. Take some time. So who is actually eligible for SSAS? Well, you've already caught some of this. You need to be a business owner, right? If you're not a business owner, get a business, get a limited company fast. Otherwise, you're not eligible right now. You can shelter profit. So if you've got a company, you can pay money in, get the corporation tax back. And because it's a tax-free trust fund, it cannot be touched by creditors, cannot be touched by lawyers, cannot be touched even by HMRC. The only people who can touch it is if you're married and you get divorced. Well, that's life, right? Can't help you with that one. But or in other ways, every other way, your pension is safe and is protected. You can move old pensions in. So if you've got a pension, you can transfer it in and be in control of the destination of that rather than hope the stock market works. And you can invite other people, as I've mentioned, family members, business partners, spouses, siblings, although if you knew my brother, you definitely wouldn't want to invest with him. So you don't want to do things that are not right for you, but things that are right for you and who you would want to work with in your life, you can. Hopefully that's making sense over who is eligible. What can go in? Well, any personal pension, any workplace pension, any SIP. A lot of people get confused about the difference between SIP and SSAS. They're not the same. They are chalk and cheese. They are wildly different. Can't do a loan back in a SIP. Can't have multiple members in a SIP. Can't do commercial to residential in a SIP. Can't hold crypto in a SIP. You can do all of these things in a SSAS. And even if you're old and grey like me, you can put your money in and you can still use it and take your money out in the same way as other people do. Tax-free cash, income like an ATM. I'm not drawing money from my pension, although I'm old enough to, but I'm not. So I don't need to, but definitely paying attention to the inheritance tax and doing lots of good work on that. And I'll be definitely sharing more information for those people who will be affected. If you're old enough to be worried, then I can help you with that in due course as the law gets clearer. Sadly, and there's always some bad news, doing a presentation just this week, and a very nice guy, lovely guy, came to me, said, I'm a dentist, I've got an NHS pension. Can I move that? And I say, sorry, but no. And he's like, why not? And I said, because there's no money there. There's no money in a public sector scheme. Now, nothing wrong with public sector schemes. If you've got them, you definitely keep them, but you cannot move them because there is no pot. The pot is future taxpayers. So if you're a doctor, a dentist, like my son-in-law, a firefighter, all of those pensions and those pensions in the future, teacher even, you're going to be paid for by future taxpayers. People like Laura, who's going to be paying her tax so you can retire in style. That's why the state pension's getting older and older and older, and these triple lock pensions, as they are, could get weaker and weaker because you're not in control. It's so much better to be in control, to know what you're doing and not waiting and hoping for somebody else. So who are WealthBuilders? Well, I'm the founder of WealthBuilders, and we're the biggest broker of SSAS in the UK. In fact, we're the only one. Nobody else deals with the whole SSAS market. You're either speaking to an independent administrator, which is a worry. It's like phoning every single mortgage company instead of just using a mortgage broker. Good brokers are worth their weight in gold, whether you're a gold bullion broker, whether you're a mortgage broker, whether you're a life insurance broker. A good broker knows what they're doing. And SSAS is a complex area. There is education on that, and we teach that in workshops, in site visits, so you come and see what other people are doing. Mark's run a number of site visits, for example. So you get a chance to see what other people are doing, and in WhatsApp groups as well, and a community we've got of over 5,000. So we know what to do. We know how to do it. We do it well. We've got a 100% success rate with HMRC. We would be delighted to give you some free resources so that you've got access to that. I know it's me speaking at you right now, so you don't have the option to ask a direct question, but if you want to ask a question, that's great. If you've got a private question that you don't really want to air, that's fine too. We'll give you the option, I think, Anthony, won't we, to allow people to say if they want to be connected to us and receive our information. And I'll give you the specifics of what that is in a minute, but it'd be lovely to hear from you. I'll answer questions in just a minute, but as we launch just a brief poll.
Absolutely. Laura, can you launch that poll for us? So, guys, we've got a poll that we've put together here we go. It's come up really quickly. Do you want to know more about Wealth Builders? Either yes, send the resources, or contact them directly. So either way, of course, you don't need to answer it if you don't wish to, but anyone that does want to be contacted, we'll send that information over to Kev's team following this.
Yeah.
We'll have the link in the video as well. And what's the best information that you guys would need over there, Kev?
Yeah, so I'm going to share with you in a minute. So when we produce information, we know that everybody's kind of multi-sensory. Some people like to read, some people like to watch, some people like to listen. So we've created materials in all of those formats. And we created some guides. So if you want to know the 7 key questions you should ask any administrator if you're going to try and do this research on your own, I'll send you that. So you just need to say, send me the resources, and we'll do that. If you've got a question and you want to do that, we create WhatsApp groups so that you can get information by just saying guide, and we'll send it to you automatically because we use WhatsApp technology to be able to help you. So if you press contact me directly, that's basically will help you through WhatsApp. That means we need a phone number, so we need your permission to be able to do that. Otherwise, the stuff will be sent to you by conventional method, not snail mail. It's not through the post. It's going to be on email. But those of you who like WhatsApp, like the speed of WhatsApp, like the flexibility of WhatsApp, click that button, and we'll be delighted to include you. We're not going to bombard you with anything. It's purely SaaS, and that's it. So I think it's going to come to an end in a second. But
yeah. So yeah, if we can end that, Laura, I think we got a flood of responses already. So I think the vast majority of people on here have answered that. If anyone hasn't been able to get to that poll in time, do let us know. Simply pop something in the chat or send an email over to us directly, and we can get your information sent over. Of course, if you're watching it on recording, there'll be a link somewhere beneath wherever I am speaking, whether that's on YouTube or whether that's on our own webinar library.
Okay. And so thanks for doing that. So one of the principles we teach in Wealth Builders is the principle of compounding. So recurring income, compounding income, recurring, compounding, continually doing something. Momentum, ladies and gentlemen, is better than meditation. Getting information and acting on it is the best way to build wealth. And we encourage, and it could be a philosophy that's relevant to you, whether you like me or not, is take one small action every month, just one. And our skill is we ask those people who work with us, give us at least 1 hour and we'll tell you what to do in that hour. Once we understand you, if it's SaaS, we'll say, right, first hour, read the information we sent to you, right? List your questions. Second hour, maybe next month, maybe next week, whatever. Find out what pensions you've got. Find out what charges you're paying. So you've got visibility of that. If you've lost control of a pension or you've forgotten it, we can help you trace it so that you don't lose that money. Okay, so we're completely focused on helping people build wealth, one small but smart action every single month. If you can do more than one a month, you'll nail it. One a month is more than enough to start seeing consistent growth in what you're doing in your wealth. And if it's about you want to know how to build private investors, we've got a WhatsApp group for that. We'll help you with that. Creating very powerful, compelling propositions, we can show you how to do that. Anywho, here's the resources we're going to send you anyway before we hit Q&A. So a little book, why every property professional must consider. Hear the word consider. I'm not saying you must do, you may not, you may not be a good fit for SSAS. You may have the wrong pension. You may not have a limited company. You may not want to do some of the things that SSAS will allow. And I'm sure one or two of you will ask some questions and I'll clarify that. There's a video I did on Sky TV talking about SSAS. They didn't like me using the word SSAS. They said I had to change the word. The word we used was director's pension. So if you watch that video, you'll hear the interviewer saying, he's Australian, by the way, tell me more about a director's pension, right? So, but it's SSAS, same thing. And then we've got a podcast. If you like podcasts, you want your home or your gym or your car to be a place of education, Wealth Talk. Well, I like it, but 250 episodes in, we feature and showcase the best people who know how to build recurring income in the country. And who knows, you could be a guest. And we have lots of guests, not just me talking and rambling on, but lots of people sharing their stories. We've even had weird, wonderful people like Anthony Belly Grice on there. I don't know why we
I
did
was
that.
hoping you would name drop me as you went on and on, and I thought at some point he's going to say I was on this podcast. Oh,
You're talking
I
about
really
the
enjoyed it, actually,
amazing
Kevin.
benefits of LMPG, and who wouldn't want to know
I
about that?
mean, look, we're preaching to the converted here, I think, but I liked the format of the podcast, and I listened to a few back, of course, and a few other big names that a lot of people recognise. Raj Berry, who's co-editor of YPN, and one of our members, was talking only a few weeks before me, and he had a lot of interesting things to say
Yeah,
as well. It's a great podcast.
yeah. Sarge Hussein's coming up in the next few days, and he posed a question to me, right, which is a really clever question, which was, is it possible? And I love new questions because if I get a new question, I don't know the answer, then I found a new marketplace to offer that answer to because there's more than one person thinking it. And he said to me, can you have a SaaS that does Sharia law compliant investments? Right. So, lots of Muslims in the UK don't like pensions because pensions are not Sharia law compliant. I'm going, do you know what? Don't know the answer to that. But guess what? Yes, you can. You can build.
Really?
Yes, you can build a Sharia compliant SaaS. And who's going to do it? Yes, I am. I'm going to build it. Can you build a pension that will minimize the inheritance tax? Yes, you can. And we're going to build it and teach people all about that in the run into 2027. The weirdest question I ever had, right before hearing your weird questions, and no, I think Dawn, you're first, so make it a good one. But the question I had was, can I buy a commercial property in Colombo, right? Which is in Bogota, actually, which is in Colombia, not Colombo as in Sri Lanka. And I didn't know the answer to that. Right? Just didn't know. But do you think you can buy a shopping center in Bogota with SaaS? What do you think, Dawn? Yeah, you can. Because SaaS is built on UK trust law. And if a country operates on trust law, then the SaaS, which is a trust, can be validated and recognized and can be a legitimate source of investment.
Hmm.
Who knew, eh? So this is my expertise. I love to find out. I love to write. I love to teach. I love to get questions and try and make them interesting. My wife thinks I'm crazy. The only person who likes pensions, she says, you're mad as a hatter. And of course I am. And you have to be in this industry. But there you go. And if you like QR codes, because who doesn't like QR code? Want to get your phone out, you get that information. So now you know a bit more. But if you did the poll, you did this, you're going to get the information, and we'd be delighted to share stuff with you. Anthony, I'm good and done. So I can either
Quite
go
done, I'm
to early
afraid,
dinner
Kevin,
or I can answer
because
some questions.
we've had a lot of questions that have been coming through. I mean, I myself have been scrawling questions in increasingly poor handwriting as you've been talking, as I've been trying to struggle to keep up. But I'm going to shoot over to Dawn first, who's had a hand up for a long time and has been very active in the chat and very, I guess, into the idea of pensions. So I'm looking forward to kind of your journey and your story.
Oh, Kevin. So your wife thinks you're crazy. You're going to think I'm absolutely crazy.
Uh-oh, I better be ready for this one
I'm
then.
going to give you something that you probably haven't heard of, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm so glad that I've come on this evening. So my husband and I left the US of A. We wonder why 4 years ago. I wonder why, right? And so all of our pensions are in the US of A. I know you can't, well, I don't know whether you can actually help with that. That'll be obviously something that we have to look in down the road. However, since then, he's still working with the same USA company, has been for 27 years. He's quite senior. They are paying him out of a London office. So for the past 4 years, he's been being paid UK pounds through a London office on a new pension. So my question is, yes, we absolutely want to get that pension out and get it into a SSAS. I've had the good fortune of hearing a little bit about SSAS through the Wealth Academy, through Paul Smith. I'm sure you've heard of him. And I'm so glad that I'm on here with you. And I do want to find out how we can do it. I definitely want to know how we can utilize, whatever we've got in the pension now to put into a SSAS. I do believe that what was I going to say now? There's a minimum amount of money that you have to put in to start with the SSAS.
Well, there isn't.
Oh, there isn't.
So shall I anticipate your question, or do you want to ask me a direct question?
No, I just want you to, just tell me, you can anticipate my question. I heard it was 25,000. I don't know. I don't even know where I heard that from. It was through one of and also
somebody in a pub somewhere, no doubt.
No, and also
you could buy and convert, but anyway.
I've started a small WhatsApp group myself with just the Cheshire people, Liverpool, and they're all asking me, do you know anybody that knows anything about SSAS? So I want to, with your permission, whatever you share with me, can I share with them? And can you come directly on ours and say anything to them? Because they're all asking. They were all asking today.
Happy to do that. And the reason I am is because there's, you know what? Here's interesting, Dawn, right? Do you want to know how many ChatGPT articles people have sent me that are wrong?
Oh, I'm sure, because my husband deals with that.
SSAS and ChatGPT always miles wrong. They get it wrong. So let me give you some definitives then. So American pensions, no.
I know. We can't do anything with that. We've got to just wait and wait.
I hope you're not an American citizen as well as a UK citizen, are you?
Yeah, my husband is.
Right. You want to speak to Simon Mizevich.
Okay.
About that. Okay. He's got a company called Optimize Accountants. Okay. So he's great at that. He's absolutely brilliant at helping people who are, and another lady, just because I don't ever like to be absolutely, straightforward, because you've got to find out who you resonate with. There's another lady called Rachel Sestini, who's also brilliant at that. So there's always more than one person I know who know how to do something I don't know how to do.
Yeah, he's do that. Paying the 2 taxes. He's doing the whatever.
So they know how to best to get you to a position where you're paying the least amount of taxes, because that's recurring income leaving your life.
Yeah,
as I said earlier. When it comes to how much does it take to set up a SSAS, or should you do, I'd say it's got nothing to do with the amount. It's got everything to do with your ambition.
Okay.
So unless you're planning to die like now,
right,
and you've got time to build a fund, it doesn't matter how much you start with. Now, it really doesn't matter. So there's no minimum. I started a SSAS up recently for a firm of dentists who buy old crusty dentist practices when the old dentists have been looking down in the mouth for so many years, they're fed up and they want to sell their practices. And she's got the NHS pension, but building from profit a separate trust fund for the next generation.
Right.
Okay. So it's not about how much you've got. If you said, roughly, what do I think it would be if you didn't have a really exciting business and you were slowly building a business? I'd probably say 50 grand is better.
Yeah.
That's what I'd probably say.
Okay.
Because the reason why I say that is I hate excess charges.
Right.
Okay. I just don't like people charging percentages or high fees. But
Mhm.
fees nonetheless have to be paid.
Of course.
So a fee to create SaaS, so you know, legally, you got to create a trust deed, which is a bespoke trust deed, like creating a limited company, really. It's like doing that. Setting up a trustee bank account. By the way, you get to name your SaaS. So you can
Right.
name what you want. Stutzman Family Trust sounds good.
Right. Yeah, because we've got the kids to
You
take
know,
care
anything
of.
you want.
15.
And then you got to move the money or deal with the money or deal with your accountant to deal with contributions, £2,000 plus VAT.
Right. Okay.
Now, if that's excessive, don't bother.
No.
Right? But for a trust fund that lasts 125 years,
Yeah.
you can do what the hell you like.
Longer than me.
Have fun with it. It's nothing.
Yeah.
In my view, I'm not being negative about nothing. It's something, but you've got to factor that in. So what I tend to do is go 50 grand, plus a couple of thousand, it's reasonable percentage.
Right.
If you're doing it on a percentage, you know, it's less than 0.5%, which is fine.
And that £2,000 is regardless of how much you've got in. Yeah, it's always that flat
It's just
fee.
the work. It's just the work that needs to be done.
Also, Kevin, I found because of Paul, I found an old pension. I'm not giving my age away, but when I say this, she'll go, "Oh, she's older than she looks." I found an old pension with BCAL, British Caledonia, and you remember British Caledonia? I used to work with them, right? And, before I left for America, I've been in America 26 years, so I found that, and they wouldn't let me put it into a private pension with Rothsay. They made me, and I tried, but I didn't obviously know you then. I tried with whoever I could find to try and get it into a SIP even, and a SSAS, whoever I spoke to, I can't even remember, the company I looked at online wasn't interested. The SIP, he said, no, you can't. The Rothsay said, they said I couldn't. They made me cash it out. It wasn't a ton of money, but they made me cash it out, and then they paid the government the tax. So I don't know whether that's.
Well, I'm not going to cry over your spilt milk, Dawn.
No. I mean, it has to be done, but I mean, I wasn't allowed to put it into a SSAS, so I don't know why, but
I don't know why either.
Yeah.
There are in pensions in other countries.
Yeah.
There's challenges, but not a pension in this country.
Well, it was this country. It was British BCAL.
Then I'm going to argue, but not vehemently because it's done. That you probably could have done it had you known how.
Okay. And then I do have another pension that I need to find, so I can find that one as well before.
Yeah. So for those who've lost pensions, there's 27 billion pounds. I mean, that's the size of the black hole.
Yeah.
In the economy and lost pensions floating around. For people who've just lost them, forgotten about them, got disconnected to them. Lots of women, by the way, who have babies and get married and just lose their old pensions. Companies get taken over, insurance companies go bust or get taken over or sell out. So there's a tracing agency in Newcastle.
Okay.
It's called pensions.gov, and you can find lost money with them. Okay. Watch out for the sites masquerading.
Yeah, I will.
As a .gov site.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, yeah, we can find your pension for you. By the way, here's our fee. It doesn't cost you anything to find out.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And Dawn, I'd be delighted to come on any group to share this. Let me state this very plainly, if I may. Nobody ever does a SaaS without somebody introducing them to the idea. Because it's not fun, right? Nobody gets pensions at all. So nobody does it. They have to find somebody who's done it or find somebody who introduces them to it.
Who's used it, yeah.
You'd be doing a number of people a great service to find out. And I'd be delighted to be the agent of that information if invited to do so.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. A pleasure.
I'll send
Thank
them.
you, Dawn. Well, look, I'm going to mute you now, I'm afraid. Although I'm very happy with how not generic, but the answers that Kev's given you have been valuable, I think, for a lot of people. But as it stands right now, he is my agent of pensions. He'll be your agent of pensions for your group very soon. I've got a few others that need to get some questions answered as well. So thank you so much for being brave enough for jumping on and asking a bunch of questions. I've got a few here, Kevin, about really about eligibility in different scenarios. So you mentioned before that one has to be a director of a business. We've got a few people here that are saying they're not yet directors, and that's going to cause them an issue, isn't it?
Yeah. If you've got properties in your own name, or you've got a self-employed business, you're not eligible. Inland Revenue approved SSAS, and they're approved for owners, business owners, really. Now, it doesn't take much to create a company. I mean, remember my principle of doing one thing a month? The first thing I do for people, if they're not eligible, is what? Set up the limited company, right? Month after that, get something in it. Put a director's loan in it. Create the contract between you and the company as an employee. So you can do it within 3 to 4 months. And if you didn't know about it 3 or 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months down the line is no big deal. So anybody can do it, but you have to have a limited company. Best bet is you have had a limited company for a while, then Inland Revenue, guaranteed approval. Fast as you like. Well, fast as they like, which is 4 months anyway. It takes them 4 months to approve a SSAS. And it's got nothing to do with the complexity of it, because they approve, every single one we put through is approved. It's the fact that they stopped putting people in the team in COVID, and they've never replaced them. And if you look at all the budgets and the budget cuts, they're not going to replace them. So we've got a 4 month, we almost measure it like, my office is on a farm in Sussex, and it's like we're near Gatwick Airport. It's like seeing the planes come in. We see the Inland Revenue schemes coming in 16 weeks, 16 weeks, 16 weeks, 16 weeks. It's not faster than that. So it doesn't matter who tells you it's quicker, it ain't quicker. And in some cases, it's longer if you've got a complicated pension. So those people who've got complicated pensions, don't second guess it. Send me a copy or scan, and I'll look at it for free. Right? I can read pension statements like a sommelier reads a wine label. All right. And I can tell you, yes, you can move that. No, you can't move that. And by the way, I'm also studying to be a sommelier. Not because I want a job, Dawn. I don't. I just love my wine, and I want to be an expert in it.
Was a glorious metaphor, kind of come out of nowhere, to be honest. But I enjoyed it all the same, almost as much as I enjoyed your Yorkshire accent, which, I've met a few people from Yorkshire. None of them sounded like that.
Yes,
so 2 more on
I can do a good Geordie accent, though, if you want.
It sounded Geordie. That's exactly what it sounded like. So
I've got an 80-year-old mother who's the Geordie, right? And she hasn't got a SSAS. But every time I call her, which every Sunday, she says, "How's me SSAS doing, Kev?" She hasn't got one, but she just knows that's all I talk about.
You've segued quite nicely, because Ifkar's popped in the chat. He's been.
Is he asking, or are you vicariously dealing with it?
Sorry,
he's not asking it, right? You are.
He's asking because he's over 70, so he's got a pension at the minute that he's not happy with. Okay. Now, is he eligible to open up a SSAS? Is that even a good idea at this point?
There's only one test you need to do. Go get a hand mirror, breathe on it. If it fogs, you're good.
Okay. So there's no limits to this with regards to age?
No. Okay. Obviously, joking aside, the younger you are, the better it is from a purposes of building up the pot big enough. And somebody in their 70s has probably got an eye on the dawn years or the autumn years of their life and thinking about the next generation if they have one. And that needs to be carefully considered, because pensions legislation is changing in April 2027. So older people need to pay attention, even if it's just to recognize that whatever they had in their pension they thought was inheritance tax free isn't. So it's going to shunt the value of their life's assets into more inheritance tax. So you've got to pay more attention to inheritance tax if you've got a pension. And we'll be doing a lot of work on helping people understand that. In fact, my son's a lawyer, and I asked him, what work are you doing? He's called Michael. What work are you doing, Michael, to help your clients understand they need to prepare for this change? He went, we don't even know that's there. So lawyers are not aware of this change because they're not paying attention to pensions, because lawyers don't do pensions. So the skill and the way I would like to position myself not for self-aggrandizement, but just for purposes of you understanding, I'm a financial GP. Right? I understand tax, I understand law, I understand trust, I understand financial planning, I understand SSAS. So because I've got that broader skill, I can bring that skill and say, that's what you need to do to minimize your IHT, inheritance tax. And teaching lawyers and teaching accountants this so that they can better serve their customers. And on that acknowledgement, I just want to say, although Anthony, I know you self-expressed non-expert in pensions, the fact that you've been an agent to bring this for other people to learn something, I just want to applaud you for that and take a moment to do so.
Appreciate that, Kev. I mean, to be honest, that is my job. The amount I've done probably 300 of these webinars. I probably know about 10% of the information going in about anything. So my job is asking stupid questions and getting intelligent answers. But it's the first time I've been thanked for it, so I appreciate that. So final one on eligibility, which is coming from Rachel. Now, this may have been answered, but I'm hoping that there's some kind of silver lining here. So Rachel said that's me not getting a SSAS then. Public sector pension over here. It's not a final salary one, but it is a public sector. Does that make any difference?
I don't know of a public sector scheme that isn't final salary. It's either final salary or average year's salary or some, right? So the key language to understand in the world of pensions, the language is clunky, is defined benefit means you're building up your pension based on numbers of years of service. So you don't have a pot, you have a benefit, a credit almost. If it's one of those, can't be moved.
Rachel's raised her hand, so I think we've probably got some clarification on the way, Rachel, if you want to go ahead.
Is this Rachel?
Hello, yes, this is me.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi, yeah, it was just to clarify, basically the final salary pensions was something that was changed a few years ago, certainly for where I am. So it's an average now, it's not a final
salary. Still the same. It's still defined benefit.
Right.
So all they've done is, instead of giving you a pension based on your final salary, which would be your highest ever, they've done it over your average. So actually they make the pension less for you.
Yeah, correct.
So not good for you, but you can't move it anyway.
Right. Well, that was one of the questions I've just put in because both myself and my partner are both public sector, he's forces. So does that mean basically we can't touch them and we've got to just basically start from scratch with a new SSAS?
I'm afraid that is correct.
Right. Okay. I mean, we're both 31, so I'm hoping that we've got plenty of time to build it up. But no, it's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And don't forget, you can tell other people about this, because not every solution, the fact that I get enthusiastic about SSAS doesn't mean I want to hit every nail as if I'm a hammer, right? There are other things you can do. So you can learn this to understand that entrepreneurs solve other people's problems. And if you know that somebody's got a terrible pension or they're not happy with it, they're just generally not happy, you can tell them about things like this that then they can do something about, and they can thank you for it by becoming your investor, or you could refer people to me. And if you do enough of it, who knows, I could even create some kind of an affiliate program or a referral program for you. So and you can do that in life, can't you? So if you're good enough and enjoy somebody else's message more than your own, there's no reason why you can't create a business with this. So lots of good things. And again, just on the point I made earlier on, Rachel, is you turned up, right? So you did something that other people didn't do. And if you've learned something, you've got clarity, but build on that. You've got a foundation of armed forces pension or public sector pension, build on top of that. So you're not like you're starting again. You've got something to build on. You've got a foundation. So keep with that until you're wealthy enough to be in a position where you don't need it.
That's a nice way to put it. Thank you.
You're
But
welcome.
can I ask before you go, Rachel, whereabouts in the country are you from?
Yorkshire.
I thought so. So just
Sorry
so you
about
know,
my
Kevin,
accent.
that's what they sound like up there. 31 is still a spring chicken. I'm 31, so we've got plenty of time. At least we know about it now. I think that's a great attitude, Kevin. I've got one more. I'm going to sneak one more question in about eligibility here, just because Ivan's come in again with a bit of a specific situation, which is to say that he's an ex-employee working for the large UK limited company, and he owns his own property company, but he cannot be a director of that company. So
apologies, just to clarify, most of the blue chips companies, well, you work for, the contract always says that you can't work anywhere else.
Sure.
So my wife and I, we set up the limited company for the property with few properties now in portfolio, but I only have 50%. I cannot be a director. And my wife is to get the complication, she's a school teacher as well. So she wouldn't be able to start on her own. So would one in my position could be eligible?
It's slightly more complicated, but the answer I always give is a definitive yes and a definitive no, or it depends. In your case, it's an it depends. Okay, so I'd look at your contract. A lot of people get confused about what the contract is actually telling you can do or can't do. The other thing is you don't have to be the owner of the company to be eligible for a SSAS. A SSAS can be set up by anybody with a limited company, then they can invite you to join.
Oh, so this is interesting, because this links back to a question I had earlier on, which is to say, you mentioned up to 11 people can be involved in a SSAS. Now, I'd assumed that meant that 11 people had to be directors of that company, but that's not the case.
No, definitely not. As long as, let's clarify that then. If I've given incomplete information or now need to clarify, one person who is a director needs to apply to HMRC. Then, when the SSAS is approved by HMRC, you can invite other people to join as trustees because you've taken the lead and you've established the vehicle.
Right.
Like children, you can invite your children in when they're 18. They don't have to be directors.
Can they bring their pensions into that SSAS?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony, because that's my main question, because I'm still an employee, so hopefully we'll be able to switch the property completely, but I'm still an employee and my pension is still with the company I work for. So the eligibility to transfer it is probably the key on that.
Okay, so here's a question for you then, or here's a thought for you, Ivan, in your 1 hour. Okay, I would go to the company for whom you're an employee.
Yep.
And ask them, well, actually, it's not the company. Find out who's the trustee, the administrator who runs the scheme, whether it's Mercer, whether it's LV, whether it's Legal & General, whether it's Aviva, whoever it is. You don't ask the company because the company don't know. And if you ask somebody who works in a company who doesn't know, the answer to a question, their default position is always going to be, I don't know, so no. Right? So you don't ask them. You ask the trustees and say, what is the minimum amount of money I need to leave in the scheme? Hello, Jono. I need to leave in the scheme.
Hello, sir.
In order to facilitate a partial transfer. Okay, now let me translate. Right? So hopefully you've realized that my only focus is the wealth of the people I talk to. So I don't want anybody to lose the benefits of being an employee and getting life cover benefits, pension benefits, contributions, and the like. Don't want don't want them to lose that. But let's say the trustee writes back or emails back and says, "Dear Ivan, the minimum sum of money you need to leave in the scheme for continuous membership to take place is £1,000. There'll be a figure. One did last week was 250. It's like tiny sum of money. Let's imagine then you've got £100,000 accumulated in the scheme. You can move 99,000 into your SAS, leave 1,000 in, keeps you a continuous member. You keep getting the contributions month by month by month by month by month by month. And what do you do 1 year later? Do exactly the same thing. And what do you do a year later? Do exactly the same thing. It's called a partial transfer. If they tell you you can't do a partial transfer, you come and talk to me. All right?
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
And pugilistically, and because I know I'm doing it, I'll be writing to them on your behalf. I've been saying, can you please, Mr. Trustee, show me the section in the rules created in this trust that forbids my client from moving that money, given in 2015, the government brought in pension flexibility to allow people the choice about how and where they invest their pension. Please tell me that, or get out of the way and let him move his money. How many times have I been refused?
You can never refuse a man that uses the word pugilistically, Kevin. And I think that's the mark of a great webinar. Thank you very much, Ivan, for clarifying. Look, we're down to the last 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to fire through a few more generic questions that I'd written down, scroll down as you were going through. The first of which, and I'm wondering, Kevin, is this for our benefit, or is this just something that you see people using their SAS pensions for? Because in your 3 ways to access wealth through the SAS pensions, each of them, whether that be buy, whether that be borrow, whether that be bridge, it was property focused. Is that because we're talking on, in a property group at the minute, or is that because that's just what you tend to see?
Any business can do the same. So let me give you an example. Imagine I've got a wonderful business. It's the poodle clipping parlor, Anthony. And it's in Halifax, right? I won't do the accent again. And thank you. I've got a SAS. And instead of clipping poodles in this rented space, I want to clip poodles and own the space. And then rent the upstairs to somebody who does something else. I could create a doggy wellness center. So I could do that. That would be the buy strategy. Okay. If I wanted to use the borrow strategy, I can lend money from my SAS to my poodle clipping parlor to buy more poodle clipping equipment.
Right.
Okay. So that's buy and borrow. If I want to bridge, I've got a poodle clipping parlor, but I met Ivan or Dawn or Jono, and they're great at property, and I want to widen the scope of my business. So I decide I want to lend them some money so I can learn about property and get an interest rate on my money, rather than put it back in the stock market and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So anybody in my business can do it. So as long as there's a business sparks a SAS into life, but it's the business owners who bring it to fruition. And then it's the very same people who then teach the next generation, which I know is a big passion of Jonathan there, as we've spoken many times before, and about transferring wisdom onto the next generation. And SAS does that because it allows them to become members. So you can have that dialogue, you can have that involvement, you can have that discussion in a way that who's ever had a discussion with their kids about their pension with Aviva? Like, does that ever happen? No, ever. So it brings a freshness and a difference. And I think I just saw John was saying invest in crypto. Yeah, you can invest in crypto. If you're an investor, you want to invest in gold bullion, you can do that. If you want to invest in crypto, you can do that. If you want to invest in REITs or real estate investment trusts, if you don't want to buy property, you could do that. You can do anything you want to, as long as You can't ride it, drink it, eat it, wear it, take it for a drive anywhere. You can't do that, right? So no personal property, but anything else, pretty much good to go.
A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, Kevin, because you mentioned earlier on that there's 7 ways to access wealth through SSAS pensions. Now, you gave us 3, there's 4 more to go. Now, am I getting confused here? Because within Wealth Builders, you talk a lot about 7 ways to build wealth as well. And you can kind of see them in your logo, the Acropolis behind you.
Yeah.
Is that a separate 7
Separate
rules?
7, yeah. 7 ways to, you know, there's boosting, which means you can borrow money from a bank. So if you've got a SSAS worth 300 grand, you can go to a bank and get another 150, which means now you've got 450 grand worth of spending power when you only had 300 grand in the first place. You can't do that in a conventional pension. You can't phone LNG and say, I've got 300 grand worth of funds with you. Will you lend me another 150 to buy some more funds? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. The buddy is collaboration, so it doesn't have to be with your family members or your business partners. You can actually collaborate with somebody else. I could join the SAS with Jono. Not that I would. If you've ever met him, you know, would never do that. But I could, right? So you can genuinely join SASs and work with other people if you've got a sense of purpose.
Can you join multiple SSASs?
You could, but why would you?
There was a question earlier on, and you've kind of reminded me of it there, which is to say that within a limited company, so I may be a director, you may be a director, Dawn may be a director, and each of us may want our own separate SAS. Can you do that if we're all directors of the same company, or do they need to be separate companies?
No. I'll answer that question. I'll give you a subsidiary question I often get. Most business owners, where they see eye to eye and they have a common desire and a common outcome, will be in the same SAS. But sometimes it's not quite the same. You can have a 35-year-old director and a 55-year-old director, and they see life differently. We had one recently where we had two young guys in their 30s, and they were both directors of a video company, a video production company. But they had different ideas. They had some ideas the same, but most of the ideas were radically different. Crypto versus gold and so on. So we did 2 SASs, 1 for each. So they did pooled resource when they wanted to pool and separate when they wanted to separate. So that's one answer. You can have multiple SASs, but it's multiple costs, right? Because you got SAS 1 costs 2 grand, SAS 2 costs 2 grand.
Right. Okay.
I'm not trying to artificially get someone to pay 4 grand if they could do it for 2. Right, to just tell the truth, and people work out what they want to do for themselves. But the other thing which is interesting is, and it just reminded me of a story today, because I was talking to a guy referred to me, who is a doctor, but he's got a medical practice for the private income, okay, but hasn't yet got the property company. So he was asking about loan back. I said, well, you're not going to be able to do a loan back, because your loan back needs to be back to the company who's created the SAS. What is your company? It's a medical practice. Then if it's for medical practice reasons, yes. If it's for residential property, no. You'd have to create another limited company and then attach it. So you'd have company A, medical, company B, property. Now they're both linked. Now you can do it. As you say, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting just watching you kind of crawl through the mind's shafts of caveats and exceptions and everything else. As you say, a great broker is worth their weight in gold, and I think you've demonstrated that today. So thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us over the last hour or so. Now, I'm sure we've got a few other questions that will be coming through, and I'll certainly send those over in the meantime. But I would usually ask at this point, between now and then, how will our members get in touch with you? How can they kind of have their own specific queries answered? I think really the best way would be to fill in that QR code or the poll or whatever else. Do get in touch and we'll send that information.
If you didn't do that, then perhaps Laura can either repost it in the chat or you post it after the event. people can find me on LinkedIn. Just check out the mug, and if you didn't do that, you can find me on LinkedIn and just say, hi, Kevin, I didn't do the poll because I didn't trust you yet, but I think I trust you now. Let's have a chat. Do that. Doesn't really matter how. Just if you resonate and you want to learn more, come and talk to me. And as many people who know me will testify, we give information so freely because we only want to help people who we can help and they need the help. If they can do it themselves, so here's how you go do it yourself.
Yeah.
Some things you can do yourself, some things you should not do yourself. Brain surgery is definitely one of them. And doing a SAS on your own, not really a great idea, because you can make a mistake with SAS, get the wrong trustee, get the wrong guidance, make the wrong investment, and you're paying any fines from the Inland Revenue. So don't do it randomly to save a couple of grand. It's not worth it.
I love your approach, Kevin, of kind of the softness, the patience, the slowness of it takes a while to get your head around, and it takes a little while to, I guess, trust the process and understand. You want to understand it fully before you jump in with both feet with anything like this. So I like that there's a very much pressure-free environment here. So again, thank you very much. We've got a lot of people putting their thanks into the chat as well. So hopefully we'll revisit this conversation at some point in the future as well. Now, as it stands, next month, Laura, I believe that we've got Jewson, don't we? I think Jewson are coming back to grace us. They've not been here for a few months now. They've got a few different changes that they've made. It's a much different account last time we spoke to them. Probably 2 or 3 times as big as it was then. But it is still probably one of the most complicated accounts when it comes to just sheer volume of products. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about the complexities of pensions for the last hour, talking about the complexities of timber, the complexities of bricks, the complexities of aggregates. There is always more information to be found, and we'll be delving into that next month. Until then, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Really appreciate you sharing your evening with us. And if you need us in the meantime, don't be a stranger. Give us a call, drop us an email, and we'll see you very soon. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.